Manchester City. For over a decade, the name has carried weight not just in England but across the footballing world. Under Pep Guardiola, they became more than a club, they became a footballing philosophy. Their style of play, defined by possession, positional brilliance, and ruthless efficiency, transformed them into the model that every rival tried to emulate, and every neutral was forced to admire. But football is a cycle. Even dynasties crumble. In 2024, that cycle came for Manchester City. Their empire showed cracks. Their dominance was questioned. And for the first time in Guardiola's reign, the whispers were no longer about City's invincibility, they were about their vulnerability. Now, in 2025, with a retooled squad, a rejuvenated manager, and a new season already underway, the question is louder than ever: are Manchester City back? City's decline wasn't a single event. It was a slow unraveling that began with injuries and fatigue and ended with disappointment. In the Premier League, their rhythm broke down. Their high standards meant anything short of the title was viewed as failure, and by those standards, 2024 was a collapse. Arsenal's young, hungry side kept pace and eventually surged ahead. Liverpool, though inconsistent, found ways to hurt City. Even smaller clubs, emboldened by City's struggles, took points off them. City lost games they would normally cruise through. Matches against Aston Villa, Brentford, and Wolves saw lapses of concentration punished. They drew games at the Etihad where opponents once feared to even cross the halfway line. Their final points tally wasn't disastrous, but by City's standards, it was damning. In the Champions League, the crown jewel of their dominance, the story was no different. Once a team that swept aside European giants, City looked fragile. They went out earlier than expected, and done by moments of brilliance from opponents and uncharacteristic errors in defense. For a club that had lifted the Champions League trophy just 2 seasons prior, the elimination was a painful reminder that Europe's throne is never secure. Key figures struggled. Erling Haaland still scored goals. But when City's midfield failed to feed him, he became a frustrated figure, isolated and ineffective. Kevin De Bruyne, the team's heartbeat, spent much of the season injured. Without him, City's creativity suffered. Rodri, usually a model of consistency, got injured for a long time last season. The aura of invincibility was gone. Teams no longer feared City, they targeted them. Pep Guardiola is often portrayed as a footballing machine, the man obsessed with tactics, training, and perfection. But behind the tactical innovations and the titles lies a person, and in 2024, that person was deeply wounded. His divorce after decades of marriage shook him. For a man who throws his entire soul into his craft, stability at home had always been his anchor. Without it, he looked lost at times. On the sidelines, he wasn't the same figure. The intensity dipped. The fire in his eyes dimmed. Players who had grown used to his relentless energy sometimes found themselves with a quieter version of their manager. The dressing room still respected him, but football is emotional, and City were suffering from Pep's personal pain. That season wasn't just about tactics or injuries, it was about the human cost of pressure. And Pep, one of the greatest managers of all time, had his most human season yet. Manchester City's response was ruthless. The 2025 summer window was one of the busiest in their modern history. It wasn't just about adding names, it was about rebuilding identity, refreshing energy, and ensuring Pep had the tools to fight again. Major signings to Johnny Reinders' central midfield. 26, Netherlands, €55 million from AC Milan. Reinders was City's marquee midfield signing. Calm under pressure, a superb passer, and capable of breaking lines with his movement, he looked like the ideal Guardiola midfielder. At Milan, he had shown as a conductor, dictating tempo and linking play. At City, he was seen as both an immediate starter and a long-term successor to De Bruyne. Ryan Atnuri left back. 24, Algeria, €36.8 million from Wolves. Dynamic and brave, Atnuri was tailor-made for Guardiola's system. comfortable drifting into midfield or stretching the pitch wide, he added depth to a position City had struggled with since Cancelo's departure. His ability to progress the ball under pressure was invaluable in breaking down defensive blocks. Ryan Cherki, right winger. 21. France, €36.5 million from Lyon, one of Europe's most exciting young attackers. Cherki brought flair, unpredictability, and creativity. City's system often relied on collective patterns, but Cherki offered something different, the ability to create chaos through individual brilliance. At 21, he represented both the present and the future. James Trafford, goalkeeper, 22, England, €31.2 million from Burnley, a former City Academy product. Trafford's return was poetic. After a strong stint at Burnley, he had grown into a reliable, confident goalkeeper. His distribution fit Guardiola's philosophy, and he was seen as a long-term option to eventually replace Ederson. Gianluigi Donnarumma, goalkeeper, 26, Italy, €30 million from PSG, a stunning move. Donnarumma, already a European champion with Italy, joined at the prime of his career. His arrival instantly meant Ederson's departure following his woes last season between the sticks. For City, it was both a safety net and a statement of intent. Svernipan, central midfield. 18. Norway, €15 million from Rosenborg, the jewel of Norway. Naipan was signed for the future, but with the talent to contribute immediately. Mature beyond his years, he could dictate play like a veteran. Pep valued his intelligence and work ethic, traits essential for thriving at City. Marcus Bettinelli, goalkeeper, 33, England, €2.4 million from Chelsea, signed as an experienced backup. Bettinelli brought leadership and calmness to the dressing room. His role wasn't glamorous, but in a squad competing on multiple fronts, depth mattered. Lone return. City also recalled several players. Jack Grealish, back from Everton, looking to reignite his place in the squad. Yan Couto, the Brazilian right-back, now more mature after Dortmund. Calvin Phillips, still struggling to cement his place but offering depth. Maximo Perroni, promising Argentine midfielder. Adding options, Jumaba, young Sierra Leonean defender. A project for the future. Kyle Walker, 35 but still valuable for his pace and leadership. Issa Kabor, versatile right-back from Bremen. Josh Wilson-Esperant, a promising left-back. The rebuild wasn't just about buying, it was about refreshing the squad from within. Guardiola's football has always been about adaptation. From tiki-taka at Barcelona to false nines at Bayern to inverted full-backs at City, he constantly reinvents. The 2025 rebuild gave him the tools for another evolution. Rangers and Naipan offered rotation and depth in midfield, ensuring Rodri wasn't overworked. At Nuri gave balance on the left, allowing Guardiola to experiment with asymmetrical full-backs again. Cherki provided a genuine 1v1 threat, something City sometimes lacked in tight games. Multiple goalkeepers meant Pep could choose between Donnarumma's shot-stopping or Trafford's balance of both. Tactically, City moved towards more verticality. While still dominant in possession, they added pace, direct dribbling, and quicker transitions. It wasn't just about suffocating opponents with the ball, it was about punishing them with variety. 6 games into the Premier League, City's record read 3 wins to losses, 1 draw. Not perfect, but promising. The wins showcased Haaland's ruthless finishing and the energy of new arrivals. The losses highlighted defensive lapses and the need for cohesion. The draw reminded everyone that City, though improved, were still a work in progress. In the Champions League, City had played 2 games, a win and a draw. Strong but not flawless. The key observation was clear. City were improving, but they weren't yet at full power. Arsenal's young, hungry team were still rising. Liverpool had regained intensity. Chelsea's unpredictable team is up and running. Manchester United looked steadier under new leadership. In Europe, Real Madrid, Bayern, and PSG remained threats. City were better, but so was everyone else. The big question: so are Manchester City back? On paper, yes. They are stronger, deeper, and more varied than last season. Pep Guardiola looks rejuvenated. The signings have brought energy and unpredictability, but football is not about paper, it's about the grind of a season. City's mixed start shows there's work to be done. Yet with Guardiola at the helm, Haaland scoring, De Bruyne returning, and new stars betting in, they have every chance of rising again. The dynasty stumbled, but it didn't fall. And now, Manchester City are once again on the march. Are they back? The answer lies ahead. But one thing is certain, Manchester